So, powers of the Nazgul, Dave. Want to hear about their powers?
No.
Not at all. No. Why would you
No.
shoot it? Okay. So, I'm going to read a little bit here from the website lotr.fandom.com. And reading about the Nazgul, it says the Nazgul were sustained by the power of Sauron. The Witch King in particular was difficult to slay, for any weapon that struck him would be destroyed. The Nazgul's own weapons included long swords of steel, and some, at least two, carried Morgul blades. Their leader possessed a powerful black mace as well. Their arsenal of deadly armaments was not confined to physical means. They also had powerful voices, which brought terror into the hearts of mortals, and a general aura of dread. They wore hauberks of silver mail and had enhanced senses of hearing and smell. So the nine could not see during the day as mortals. Instead, they saw shadowy forms. At night, they saw shapes and forms invisible to mortal eyes. They were to be feared they were to be feared the most at that time during the night. And they sensed the presence of the ring at all times and were drawn to it, especially if it was put on a finger. They were also surrounded by an aura of terror, which affected all living creatures. The Black Breath, also known as the Black Shadow, was a serious and often fatal condition, resulting from contact with a Nazgul. Do you know of anyone who we know who was affected by the Black Breath?
The Black Breath? Is that literally what? If you touch a Nazgul, is it?
If you come in contact with a Nazgul, now it sounds like if he speaks to you and he says something, he can put you under a spell. But I think you can be just if you're in his vicinity, like if you're like kind of COVID, like don't come into within 2 meters of the Nazgul.
You have to wear a mask whenever you're near a Nazgul. So
special black mask.
Well, I would imagine Eowyn.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And
cool.
who
Yeah.
else? Basically,
Theoden.
Eowyn then gets saved by whom?
Aragorn. Wait.
Who else does Aragorn save?
Oh.
At that same time.
Oh,
He
Mary.
saves.
Oh yeah,
Correct.
Mary.
Yeah. Well
yeah.
done.
Yeah. Yes.
And
Also,
one
when Mary
more,
stabs him.
because there were 3.
3. Is it part of that? Did Aragorn save this person too?
Yeah, Aragorn saved 3 people after
Was it
the battle.
Faramir?
Yes, well done.
Yeah.
Good job. 3 for
Okay.
3. Very good. Well done.
Nice.
So these 3 people came in contact with Nazgul, and they were all put under this Black Breath condition. And
Gross.
Aragorn had to. Yeah, sounds like proper stinky breath. Like,
He just hasn't
like-
brushed his teeth for thousands of years. You
Whenever
actually
I watch-
develop a disease.
yeah. Whenever I watch the 3rd movie, I always think that the mouth of Sauron. I'm like, his breath
Oh,
must be absolutely
God.
rank. But like, if the Nazgul actually had like, they had their own name for it, like the Black Breath. It's like,
Yeah, but like,
must have been awful.
yeah, I suppose like the Nazgul, their entire face is just like a hole. Like,
Hole.
do you know? Do you know when you get like a hole in your tooth because it's so infected and disgusting, and you need to get it filled in? Well, the whole Nazgul's face is just a hole, so that's
needs to be
bad.
filled
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they go to the
bad
dentist
their
like, you
condition is.
need a giant filling to fill all this.
You
hole."
need a huge face.
So yeah, that's the Black Breath, stinky breath
Gross.
that the Nazgul had that basically could be fatal. And Aragorn, who was the king, and he had the hands of the healer, which was like a what do you call it? A prophecy. There was a prophecy that said something like the hands of the king are the hands of a healer, and he
Yes.
who heals, la la la. So the king shall be known, or whatever. So
A doctor.
Aragorn. So Aragorn basically was a doctor, and they were like, "You're a doctor, you must be king." So that was the Black Breath. Now, the fear that the Nine inspired was one of their greatest strengths, according to Gandalf. And also, Gandalf said that if Sauron regained the One, then they would become vastly more powerful. But he didn't really specify how. That's just Gandalf. He was just, probably.
Yeah.
However, as Sauron's strength grew in the course of the Lord of the Rings, the Nazgul did become more powerful, which we see in the movies as well. And in the Fellowship of the Ring, their cries were simply unnerving to the hobbits, and they appeared to be physically weak a bit as well, as Aragorn managed to hold off 5 of them at least, single-handedly at Weathertop. But in The Return of the King, however, their cries are powerful enough to send all but the most stout-hearted of Gondor's defenders into helpless terror. And the Witch King in particular had become so powerful that he challenged the reborn Gandalf the White. And moreover, some of them, or all of them, maybe even practiced sorcery, using spells for wicked purposes. And the Witch King in particular, I remember he's casting spells on the door of Gondor of Minas Tirith as Grond is breaking it down. And it's kind of like the combination of Grond and his spell that actually destroys that door. So they had some other little powers like that as well. But it's kind of cool. I think we spoke about that as well a long time ago in a different episode of how the Witch King, when he finally challenges like Gandalf, that's when he's at his most powerful moment. Sauron's power is increasing, and so the Witch King's power is increasing.
Yeah.
And so they are kind of like just getting stronger and stronger all the time throughout the Lord of the Rings.
So like a dyad in the Force, a little bit.
So then, speaking of a couple of weaknesses, on the other hand, so one of their weaknesses was just daylight itself, like bummer. So with the exception of the Witch King of Angmar, none of them, especially Gamul, could operate as well under the sun, and they generally feared it. At Weathertop, Aragorn used fire to drive the ringwraiths away from Frodo, and even the Witch King was afraid of fire. So we see at the ford of Brunnen, Aragorn and the hobbits that accompanied Frodo used it to assist Glorfindel and drive the ringwraiths into the waters. And that's where we see that in the Lord of the Rings. It's with Arwen. In the books we know it's Glorfindel, but they kind of use fire to push them into the water. It's not just Arwen's like, if you want him, come and claim him. So it's a little bit different in the book, but they kind of use fire to push them into the water. And if an enemy was strong enough to resist them, their kind of aura of dread, if they were able to kind of resist that aura of dread, then the ringwraiths kind of just lost their power. They didn't really have any power if nobody feared them. Kind of exception of the Witch King. He still had other powers. But basically, if you didn't fear them, you were almost like resilient to whatever. So some heroes of Middle-earth, such as Aragorn, Gandalf, and Glorfindel, could single-handedly face a ringwraith and defeat or at least elude them, provided they were not confronted by multiple ringwraiths at the same time or the Witch King. However, only a few could resist them all at the same time, such as Gandalf. He resisted the 9 at the same time, and Glorfindel was in fact able to instill fear in the hearts of the Nazgul, which is pretty cool. He was.
What did he do? Let out a huge scream himself. That's interesting though. I like the way that you said if you don't like fear the Nazgul, they kind of lose all their power. Kind of reminds me of Santa Claus in the Elf movie. Do you know, if you don't believe in Santa Claus, then he doesn't have enough power to power his sleigh. It's like if you don't believe in it, his magic doesn't work, and that's exactly what the Nazgul, the same effect they have as well. So
Sorry, I was just thinking immediately of seasons don't fear the Nazgul or the Reaper, nor do the wind, the sun, or the rain. So come on, baby. Don't fear the Nazgul. That could be a version of the song that we could do.
That's their theme tune, is it? When the Nazgul come riding into town.
That's the theme of like the Fellowship. They're like, don't fear the Nazgul. That would be class. And you can get Will Ferrell in there with more cowbell and all that kind of stuff. You know.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so when the Nazgul traveled separately, and especially during the day, that's when they were at their weakest. And also when they were the further they were from Sauron, the weaker they were also in most cases. So basically then...
Sound like Treebeard there. The further they are from Sauron, the weaker they are from harm. Or no, it was a Pippin, sorry.
Yeah. Treebeard's like, well, that doesn't sound very smart to me, or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway,
make much sense to me. Then again, you are very small.
I love how he says that. I thought he was going to say like, but then again, you have been right before or something.
Yeah, exactly.
The only reason
you're
like,
very clever.
You're very small. And that's like the only thing you've got going for you.
Yeah, I love that quote. It's dig. So good.
So when they're separated, they're weaker, and when they're further from Sauron, they are weaker as well. So then, on the contrary, when they're joined together and when they're close to Sauron, and when Sauron is at his strongest, that's when they are the most powerful as well.
Like Power Rangers, yeah.
They basically join together and they, you know.
What's that thing that they say? What do they say? Like, amalgamate. But they don't say that. They say, like, morphin time. I can't remember what they say.
I think it's more morphin time rather than amalgamation.
Amalgamate time. No, what do they say? It's gone out of my head. Don't they say something?
Is it
they
not?
all
It's
like
Morphin time? I think you're right with that.
Morphin time. Is that Power Rangers? Yeah, is it? Yeah, maybe it is. Morphin
Mighty
time.
Morphin Power Rangers. Isn't that
Okay, yeah.
that the way it goes?
It's
Oh,
Morphin time.
Yeah. Who's Morphin? Where
Morphin
was
Man?
this? What was it?
The Morphin Man?
The morphine man. He just goes around delivering morphine. Especially if people are suffering from the black breath. He's like,
Yeah.
you need some morphine.